Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have Kid by Jescie Hall.
Yay!
Kid is handsome, intelligent, and so charming. He could sell honey to a beekeeper. Unfortunately for Kid, he also has demons that he believes can only be quieted with drugs, alcohol, and women. That is, until he meets this one woman in particular that makes all his other vices feel useless. Han is gorgeous, loved by everyone, and cannot be tamed. She also has demons to rival Kid's and keeps them all locked away the same way he does. Together, they have the potential to either break free from the chains that bind them or burst entirely into flames. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun. All right, everyone. So, some trigger warnings for this episode. We will be discussing in the book and the podcast some graphic sexual content, rough sexual play, knife play, heavy drug use, discussion of addiction, self inflicted pain, discussion of suicide. And there are some elements of, there's some mentions of dead animals and death of animals. So, just be warned.
So the fun thing about this cover, it is kind of reminiscent of some of the trigger warnings, like the drugs. So literally, so some of
Mhm.
the letters are actually like kind of cocaine, kind of chopped and forming the letters, which I thought was a really interesting way to kind of dabble that right into there. But you also have like
Mhm.
at one point they talk about dead flowers and how they're a vibe for one of the main characters. And I honestly, I love the way that she did it. It's one of those like you're hanging the dead flowers, except like this is actually a really pretty arrangement of dead flowers or like pressed flowers. So it was really cute. But yeah, I really dig the cover.
Yeah, and not only just the cocaine letters, it's very gritty, like kind of like 90s kind of, well, not really. This is more like kind of like early 2000s, I
Mm.
would say. But that kind of like grungy, gritty, and I mean the subject matter, we're in a darker world, like um and I think that it totally fits. It's not a shiny cover. It's not a pretty cover. I mean, it is pretty. Like the art itself is beautiful, but it's simple, but it's like raw.
And I know actually there was a couple of different covers for this book, but I think this one here fits the vibe so much better. And I really think that this latest edition that she did was fantastic.
That's right, because on the Goodreads, it was like the picture of the guy,
Right.
which I actually really liked that picture too. But I just love the one that says kid, man.
Yeah, no, I think this one hit the mark a little bit better. Um, but I have to say everything about this just kind of hit marks, but this freaking dedication was it was literally, I think, my favorite dedication thus far on this podcast. And there's
What was it? Can you read it?
I'll actually read it in just a second. It obviously there
You're like, as I was saying.
yeah, because okay, like listen, we've had so many different dedications on this podcast. We've read a lot, we've liked a lot, and there was a lot of notable ones, but I think this one just was really fucking awesome. It says, to anyone who's ever thought their demons made them look too dark to be loved, know that the right one will love you, especially for those shadows in the deepest part of your soul you silently conquer every single day. And I think so many people need to hear that. So many people need to know it doesn't matter how you feel, there's always going to be someone to love you. Even when you don't want to love yourself, there's going to be someone that will love you. And like I said, so many people just need to hear that. So great job with that dedication.
Yeah. I think I don't know about I think you do have people that kind of fit that description a little bit, but I know that I have some people that I love very much that have at least at one point thought that their demons were too dark and that no one was going to love them because of them. And it was almost like they were putting so much pressure on themselves because they knew how dark things were, and it was almost like they robbed themselves of the people that could love them in spite of it, or they were putting that weight on themselves, and there were people around that it was like the people that they were trying to hide from their darkness the most were the ones that would have helped them, or did help them through it in the end. um so I love that dedication because it explains to them like, hey, sure, some people might leave, but not everyone is going to leave, and your darkness is not going to scare everyone away.
Well, and I think that's a huge thing that a lot of us need to learn. And even like in this book, Kid needed to learn that his self-destructive tendencies weren't going to help him get love, but someone will love him even with those self-destructive tendencies. This book hit. It hit so many different feels. It made me even like take a second look at myself in some of the things that I do, and you know because we all want to be loved, but we all also tend to think we don't deserve the type of love that we do deserve.
Yeah.
And I resonated with Kid a little bit on that. Or Han, whichever way you want to go with that.
Yeah. So just a brief little like intro. So Kid he's that party animal, right? He's the one that goes to all the parties, all the girls love him. He, is the drug dealer, which, they kind of love him in spite of that, but obviously some people love him because of that too. But it's almost like at first he doesn't realize, I don't it's almost like at first he won't admit to himself that he's using all of this as a way to like mask what he's really feeling and what he's really going through. And so he's like this carefree. I actually really like the way she wrote him because he was like really funny, really quippy. Like his
Mm.
wit was hilarious. He was so good. Like he was that guy that you love, even though you want to punch him in the face, but like you also want to protect him too. And it's like he's frustrating because you want to keep him safe, but he doesn't help himself. Like I feel like we all have. I know that I for sure have had friends like that.
Yeah, he really was a very lovable character, but I also love that he had that friend, that one person that was always rooting him on, even when he was horrible and
Ah,
doing the worst things. Like he had that one person, that solid friend that was like, no, you got this, you can do this, you can be better. I know you can be better. I know you deserve better. And he always had him in his corner. Even when he was fucking up the worst, he was still fucking there. And to have that even that one person be your solid support makes a fucking difference.
absolutely.
This book made me cry, and it like this podcast is gonna make me cry.
I know there's going to be moments in it for me too.
Ugh.
So essentially, Kid comes from he came from the East Coast.
I
These books are kind of like there's a few of them and they all kind of like link up together, but they are kind of standalones. So I think he came from the East Coast to visit his friend Hawk and Hawk's girlfriend on the West Coast.
I feel like that's how it went.
Yeah. And then so he kind of like left the East Coast to just take a break of all the chaos, all the things that he was doing and all the, stuff that was going on. And so he was like crashing on couches. And what he did, of course, was he like got into like the party scene on the or on the West Coast too, like at Hawk's house. And you know what it kind of reminded me of? It kind of reminded me of like Shameless a little bit, where like Lip was when Lip was kind of going out of control, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yep.
And it was like they didn't know if he was gonna like be okay. If he didn't come home, it was like, oh God, what's going on? Like is he safe? And then he meets Han, who's like literally him as a female. And so he like of course falls head over heels for her.
She was literally the type of person that I wish I could be. Just I don't know how to put this. She was such a free spirit, but there was no rules. There was nothing held her down. It didn't matter. Like no family could even hold her down. She didn't give a fuck about anything, but gave a fuck about everything. And she was, I don't know. I just loved her character because although she was fucking up, she kind of knew her limits, and she just teetered that line of self-destruction and fun, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
But I almost feel like both of them kind of were okay by literally like the grace of God. Like I think that both of them were just so lucky and they had people looking out for them, and then like, because they were both were very self-destructive. Um
mhm.
and so when they came together, it was kind of like, oh God, is this gonna like they're either gonna be really good for each other or they're gonna be really Sid and Nancy for each other.
Right. But the way that they kind of connected, it was, you could tell that it could go either way. But there were instances where he was like more concerned about her than he was about himself, and vice versa. But at the same time, then they were like, yeah, drugs, more drugs, and more drugs. And it was just like, holy shit, this
Mhm.
is gonna be so bad.
Yeah.
And they did take us on a trip.
Well, you know what's nuts is like people that, in my experience, people who are like that, right? Who are numbing pain with drugs, they feel so deeply. So I was not at all surprised when he met her and his whole world was changed, because it was like if they didn't feel this deeply, if they didn't feel so much, then they wouldn't be having to mask anything, you know?
Yeah.
But everything was so, they were so passionate and they were so like, so when the highs were high, man, their good times were amazing. But then the lows hit and it was like earth shattering.
Mm. Yeah. And I, real life, obviously, like a lot of people go through that and they don't have that support system, or they don't have any of the backing to help them get through those highs or lows. But man, to see them work together to try to even get through those moments, but at the same time not wanting to cave to feeling. And obviously, like when you're in that type of situation, you are taking the drugs to numb the pain, numb the feelings. Like you don't want to think about, loving someone or hating someone or losing someone. But the fact that they forced each other to kind of see those moments, but it also kind of like pushed them away from each other, because it's like, you're making me feel feelings. I don't want that. Go away. But it's still, in the end, there was still a magnet towards one another, and I love that.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the way that she wrote the relationship, the story in general, right? Right? Because it wasn't just a story of, you know, um him meeting Han. It was also a story of like him and his journey with himself and like self-healing. And so it was like we got to see him. There was a foundation for everything, right? Like it wasn't just like the relationship, but we also got to see them together happy, we got to see them together sad, we got to see them fight, we got to see them make up. We also got to see, you know Kid on his journey of like being a party animal, and then he's got a job, and like Hawk is telling him things that he's good at, but then he relapses, and then he, it was a full-on journey. So it wasn't just like a matter of like this happened, this happened, this happened, like boom, boom, boom. It was like we got to be invested. And I have a soft spot in my heart for people like Kid anyway, right? Because of like people that I've loved growing up, and relatives or whatever. But I I loved that we got to see all of the aspects, not just the goods, not just the bads. It was like we uh we kind of got to see the whole journey.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love that she talks about um is it's one of the things that you do. So you don't like time. And she said something about trying to change the speed of time to reduce her anxiety about death. And
Mm.
he asked her why she was so fixated on something that was out of her control. And her response was because it was so intractable, so uncontrolled. It's the exact reason it gives me unease. So much is out of our hands. Doesn't that terrify you? Knowing everything that you are is simply up to chance, it makes the need to alter reality that much more relevant. And it was like the way that she thought about time and death, and it did remind me of the way that you talk about it sometimes,
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
sense that you don't want to put a number on things. You don't want to actually like acknowledge the fact that time is, going, but you live in those moments. And
Mhm.
I just, the way that she put it just made me kind of more understand you.
Oh,
Well, it's because like I
I
could
love
never,
that.
well, because I could never get the concept of like why you were so like fixated on not putting numbers on things, and why like you hated time frames. And now I get it. Like I just get it. So
Yeah.
thank you, book.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to it. I love that you picked that up though. That's really cool.
Well,
They were such great characters. I fell in love like with both of them, to be honest. Like just the way she saw things, and surrounded herself with different concepts. It was almost like she surrounded herself with the things that terrified herself the most,
yes.
but also avoided them like the plague. Oh, it was so interesting.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like everything about this book was just well done. The characters are just beautiful, like beautifully broken, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I yeah. I I'm having a hard time because it's like, yeah, I recognize that these thoughts like along the same line, like destructive thoughts like I don't deserve this, or I like receiving death
Mm-hmm.
and life and all that. And it's like just the way these characters were, the way that they've come from point A to point B, just I don't know, it gives me hope for some of the other people that I know that are struggling with the same things.
Absolutely. With the triggers, I did mention that there's, graphic sexual content, rough sexual play, and knife play. So there is explicit like adult content in here. Um, I thought that it was beautiful. Like it connected the characters in such a way, like it wasn't even just like, well, they got it in, but it also wasn't even just between them two. It was like, there were explicit scenes with him and like other girls, and like him realizing that she, was with someone else, and then, but then them together was like explosive.
Mm,
It was yeah, it was it was really cool how she made it not just kind of one note.
mm. But it was also five jalapenos.
Oh, 100%. 100% five jalapenos. Six jalapenos.
Yeah, I do.
It was like candles involved and knives and
It was just like it was one of those books where it's like sometimes the scenes kind of like came out of nowhere and I was like, "Oh." So at one point I literally did that at work and I had an entire store just all eyes on me and I'm like,
oh my God.
please don't look at me." My face was bright ass red because it was a fucking spice scene. Like, holy shit.
Speaking of the spicy seeds, it wasn't even just between them. Like Hawk, Kid's best friend, and Hawk's girlfriend. What was her name? It was Han and
Nicole, but they called her Cole.
Cole. Yeah, Cole. So Hawk and Cole were like they were such couple goals. They were so cute. It was like they were like obsessed with each other. And Kid noticed it and he like not in a bad way. It wasn't even like, oh, Hawks with Cole again. Well, it was like they just love each other so much. It was so cute.
But at the same time, his little comments like, "Hey, when you want a threesome, just let me know."
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Oh,
Hawk was my favorite character. I loved him.
he was really good. I'm not gonna lie, there was one scene where Cole was pissed off at Hawk and they were getting ready to go out on like a guy's night. And so he's like, "Hey,
Hmm.
kid, just go to the car. I'll be right there." And he gets into the car and he's like, "Yeah, she just was pissed off and just wanted to get it in before we went out." I'm like, "Oh my God, she is awesome." Oh,
Yeah, she just wanted to make sure that he didn't eye anyone else while he was at them. So
I
funny.
oh God.
Oh my God. That scene in the party when Kid couldn't find Hawk, my heart dropped.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah.
But like I was so scared. Um anyway.
Yeah. But
What was your so Hawk was my favorite quote. What was yours?
honestly, I think Han was my favorite.
Aw.
She I don't know, like the amount of love that she had, but she just kept holding back was just I don't know, it was really
Yeah.
adorable. And I'm sorry. But him the Kid and Han together, like the whole Snuffleupagus and the Big Bird thing, ma'am. Ugh. And Norbert, oh,
Yeah.
I just my fucking heart.
Mm.
But did you have any favorite quotes?
Okay, so I did, but I have a couple. I have one that so okay, this whole book is my favorite quote. There was so much in it in terms of like sentences that are like quotes that make you change the way you see the world, the way people that could change the way you see yourself.
Hmm.
That there's so much packed in it. Um I have a couple that I'm going to say, but just know that there is so many more that I would pick. Um, there's one when he was talking to Han, when Kid was talking to Han, and he goes, "Don't hate me forever, beautiful. We have a future to get to, you know?"
Hmm.
And my heart melted. I was like, "You son of a bitch."
Yeah.
And then there was one where he was getting into a fight and the guy was whooping him. And he said, "There's only one person that can hurt me, and it's not you, you little bitch."
Oh,
Because
yes.
it was like you could do well, it was like you could do anything to me, but it's not gonna matter to me because you can't hurt me. Only she can, you know?
Hmm.
Everything you do is only surface level. Um the other one I wrote down was because this quote shows exactly how like funny and quirky and adorable he is. Like he had gotten whooped and he was in the hospital, not for him, he was in the hospital for someone else. And Hawk was like guiding him down the hallway, and the lady was like, "He needs to be seen by a doctor." And Hawk's like, "No, no, no, he's fine." And she's like, "No, he needs to be seen." And he goes, "Thanks for your concern, desk lady. I appreciate you."
Yeah,
Desk lady.
he was really a really, really good character for sure.
Hmm. Um, but my favorite of all is you're worth more than how you treat yourself. And I need everyone to listen to that again. It says you are worth more than how you treat yourself. So be nice to yourself,
Yeah.
Jen.
Shut up.
So Jennifer,
Yes.
what are your favorite quotes?
Okay. So I did have two.
Okay.
So one of my favorites, Kid and Han were having a conversation about the meaning of life.
Mm-hmm.
And they had periodic deep moments like this. And Kid asked Han what gives life meaning. And her response, I absolutely loved. She says the same thing that ends it, love. And it was so simple, but I think it was just beautiful. But there's a big but. um, my favorite quote was, she's literally setting herself to fight these feelings. She's being pushed and pulled, wanting love, being terrified of it, yet craving it, knowing it has the capacity to end her. And dude, love is so scary. Loving anybody, it doesn't matter whether it's a family, a friend, or a love interest. Love is scary because it's just, I have a hard time with it because it seems that everybody I love leaves me. So it's like I understood her
Mm-hmm.
with not wanting to become prey to love, but at the same time, just wanting someone to love her so much. And it's just, oh God, that quote hit me so hard. So yeah, absolute favorite.
Yeah. These topics were no joke, man. Um, it was really intense and it had me hooked. So there for a minute, I was a little bit ahead of you, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, no, I just haven't gotten into it yet," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm literally dying over here." And then you texted me and you were like, I'm gonna be giving you updates just every chapter, apparently.
So I think the reason that I couldn't get into it at first is because I was fighting the fact that I was resonating with it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like every fucking topic, every feeling. I've watched people drown themselves in drugs and alcohol. I've also done it myself, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I I understand that, wanting to talk about it and not wanting to talk about it, or not wanting to read about it, or not wanting to just be exposed to it's a thing. And you know being like, I was prepared for it, but then I realized how unprepared I was for it. And you know I there's a lot of things that I learned about myself while reading this, and I'm glad that we picked this book, but it took a lot for me to put aside my own feelings to be able to get into the book. And once I finally did, I man, was I hooked.
Yeah, it definitely gets you.
hmm This book is literally no joke. It, yeah, it's worth the read though.
Yeah, it was like, what's funny is like, so when I first heard about it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be intense." And it was intense, and there were parts like throughout it that I was like, "Okay, this is going to destroy my soul." And it was almost like it just kept you stressed. You were stressed along with the characters, whenever anyone was like, I mean, it's real life and death themes, right? So like You're like, oh God, is this person okay? Is this person okay? Like, are they going to end up being okay? And it was almost like that. The way it was written was so you're on the edge of your seat, and especially if you know people, or if you know people who were like that, or if you're like that, if you're a kid yourself, then it's kind of like it's like twice as rough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, it's like it's something that everybody should read just to kind of get the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult read, but it is so worth the amount of lessons that are in there.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts overall about the book? Like your overall opinion?
I absolutely loved it to the point where I actually have bought the physical copy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's it was a powerful book and I loved it.
Yeah, it was very powerful. I love it. I loved it as well. It had me so stressed throughout it. It the way it ended was beautiful.
Mm,
Um, it could have ended differently, and it would have been um it's another one of those things where it was like the ending could have gone either way and it would have still been incredible. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
it's I'm very satisfied with the ending. But I don't want to like say anything more because like obviously, but yeah, I uh I had thoughts for sure, and it was like edge of your seat the whole time. I think that this is one of those things, one of those books that, like you said, everyone should read, because that way it gives you a little bit more of a glimpse into what other people might be dealing with.
You might not fully understand all the aspects of this book, or you might not be going through what this book has to offer. But at the same time, it's better to understand it and not be going through it than to be going through it and not understand it, you know? I don't know if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah. Um, So I just want to throw these quick resources out there. If you or someone you love is suffering from drug abuse in the US, please call the National Drug Helpline anytime, day or night, at 1-844-289-0879. If you or someone you love is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please dial 988. You are not alone, even if it feels like you are.
For Canada, you can also call 988 or the Canadian Mental Health Crisis Line at 1-833-456-4566.
For our lovelies in the UK, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Helpline UK at 0800-689-5652, or call NHS anytime, day or night, at 111. We love you, and we hope that if you're struggling, that you do reach out.
Even if you have to reach out to us, do it.
Yeah, no, there's been a couple times where I've seen, like if I see someone that is, posting some things that seem a little iffy, I'll DM them and be like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, do you need to chat?" Like, our DMs are always open if you need anything, just like a third party to listen to. Like, we are more than down.
Yeah, for sure. Because, it we've all been through stuff, but it helps when you have someone to be there, even if it's just a listen.
Mhm.
This book got us all in our feels.
This book was written by Jessie Hall. She has also written That Sick Love, and a book which is all about Hawk, titled Hawk. Her book Greenlight came out August 6th, and she will be at the Love in Vegas book event at the Paris Casino on October 25th and 26th, but those tickets are unfortunately all sold out. You can find Jessie on Instagram at jessie.hall, and that's JESCIE.HALL. On Facebook, she is author Jessie Hall, and her website is jessiehall.com. And I want to read this little quote. I snagged it directly from her website. It says Jessie has a passion for creating worlds that revolve around tough topics, pushing boundaries, crafting swoon-worthy men, and diving deep into the forbidden, ensuring to rip out your soul and hold it captive until the last word. She enjoys building up broken characters who fight through their real-life flaws to find their happy endings.
Beautiful.
It was, and I'm tempted by her. My TBR is so big it's gonna swallow me whole, but like Hawk has his own book. And like
So,
he and Cole were so cute. Like they remind me of my brother and sister-in-law. Like just
hmm,
been through hell to like just, you know,
yeah.
be each other's perfect person.
I will say, like, I've actually had that Sick Love and Hawk on my TBR for a while, but I'm actually a little disappointed that more hasn't been said or like kind of like flared up about Kid. Like, this was such a good book. Like, I don't understand how people aren't like screaming it from the tops of mountains or whatever. Like, scream it from the tops of social media. Like, dude, this book is so fucking good. I can't even imagine how good these other books are with now reading this.
Yeah, I got this book. So I first learned about it on TikTok. And so that's where I heard it from. And then also we follow Jessie on Facebook. Um, so like I've seen it around, but not as much as I would like to have. um,
Yeah.
Jen, what are we reading next week?
So next week we are reading The Dark Thing by John Ashley.
Woo! Talk about dark topics. Like this is all like uh drug abuse and suicidal, discussions, and then the dark thing is about schizophrenia. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to another episode of Devilish Bookworms.
If you want to chat with us, be sure to check us out on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.